Welcome to Invictus Motors. In the modern day, age and times, you're surrounded by beautiful cars. And then there is the McLaren. This is something that we've wanted in our showroom for a very long time. We've got the McLaren 570S. Comparable to the AMG GTS, which we have got one in stock, Ferrari California, the 911 Turbo S, or the Audi R8 V10 Plus. We're going to tell you everything you need to know why perhaps one should be considering a 570S, a McLaren, because this is a lot of car for the money. It's a lot of performance. Some of the other topics we would like to cover in the video are things like reliability, performance, what it's like to handle, drive, what it's like to get in and out of it. And is this something that you could daily every single day? So before we can get into this video, don't forget to press that subscribe button, gives us a thumbs up, and thank you very much in advance for actually watching the video, because all the money that we raise through our 2 YouTube channels gets donated to a UK registered charity. We're currently in the process of building a school in Afghanistan so that there is some hope for the generations to come. So thanks once again, and let's get into this right now. I can't get enough of opening these McLaren dihedral doors, and the experience of being able to get in and out of it is another very pleasurable thing to go through. And also how well made the key is. I think it's beautiful. Now that it's been turned on, let's just hear what it sounds like on stationary. Yes, it has a soft limiter, and let's get it on the road and put it through spaces. It's nice to have the rear view camera. Makes life extremely easy when one is reversing a car like this. Let's get the interior ventilation, the fans going. Currently, this is in its normal comfort settings, and it drives as you would expect, you know, a nice, comfortable car, you know, a 911 or an AMG GT, or you know, anything similar to it. You wouldn't think that you're sitting in or driving something that is so driver focused, that is so unique to the experience of what a McLaren has to offer when you're just poodling around in it. But what it does bring in that is a lot of attention, a lot of people, I guess, looking, waving, and in some instances just very keen admirers. Let's actually press the active button, have both the handling and the transmission into sports mode, and drive it a bit spiritedly. What an exhilarating experience this is. I think it's just mind-blowing how easy it is to handle around in something like this around the corners. And on the downshift, the exhaust has a phenomenal sound to it. And This has the 7-speed dual clutch transmission known as SSG, which actually stands for 7-speed seamless shift transmission. Essentially you've got two parallel gearboxes working as one, so you've got two clutches, and they both work off the odd and even numbers, so hence why you've got the phenomenally quick gear changes that you find in the McLaren. This is very similar to the technology that you find in the BMW DCT transmissions or the Porsche PDK transmission. The SSG as a transmission is produced by the Italian company called Dana Graziano, and they are extremely well admired and very well known in the manufacturing of transmission for automobiles around the world. Now, what have we got behind us in this rear mid-engine configuration? We've got with us the 3.8 litre V8 engine that produces 562 bhp and just over 600 newton meters of torque, and the 0 to 62 miles per hour is possible in 3.2 seconds. And when this is put alongside the likes of the 911 Turbo S or the Audi R8 V10 Plus and obviously the McLaren 570S, they're all within 0.1 seconds of each other when it's doing its 0 to 62 times. I think I'm still getting used to simply appreciating what a special car I'm driving. Yes, you know, we're known to find McLarens that cost in excess of, £200,000-300,000 or £500,000 or £1 million. I mean, this is the kind of a supercar territory that people so often know McLarens for. And yes, this might be down the pecking order, but the performance, the handling, the looks, and the way they've been put together says otherwise. I think it's an extremely capable and very, very well put together car. Such a refined machine, beautifully sounding. This was us in 4th gear, getting up to the national speed limit. And when you're on roads like this, you don't feel like you're in a track focused or a track orientated stiff car. Obviously the normal, the sports and the track settings change the behavior of the car massively. So in normal settings, the suspension is extremely comfortable. In sport settings, it's stiffer, and in track setting, the suspension is at its stiffest. And you can have something like the transmission in a sport setting and have the handling, which is essentially your dampers, in normal settings, if this is how you like to drive your car. What is truly remarkable is how well it gets up to speed. Is this, in my opinion, the best sports car, the best supercar that I've ever experienced by far. And that's due to the fact how well it's actually put together, from what you find on the door cards, from from the experience of opening the doors, from finding the flat bottom steering wheel, which is in a mixture of Alcantara, leather and carbon fiber, and the paddle shifts are also in carbon. There's us in third gear doing 4,500 RPM. Second gear. It is truly a phenomenal experience, and I think one really needs to view, test drive, and just get behind the wheel of something like this to truly appreciate what a phenomenal car it is. I will never get tired of driving something like this around. At the moment, it's now done 17,638 miles, and I think this is crying for somebody to put miles on. And simply at a press of the active button, everything goes back to normal. That is your handling setup. So the dampers are now into the softest settings, and the transmission is in the normal settings, so the gears change without you actually noticing it. They're not held for any duration whatsoever. And this is truly an eye-catching and a phenomenal piece of engineering, how well it's built, how well it's designed, and the way it drives is definitely a credit to McLaren. And I do thank you for being with me throughout this test drive, and we're just going to get out and review the rest of the car. And if you're curious to meet some competition to the McLaren, we've got a 911 991 Turbo S right here. I've got my brother Ali drawing it so it can be photographed. Yes, the 911s have a lot of history behind them, and they are phenomenal cars, very well put together, very well engineered, but nothing beats what you get from the aesthetics, the amount of F1 technology that is incorporated into the McLaren, how well it's put together, and just the overall experience from, I guess, the way it drives and the way it looks. This is, to me, truly an eye-catching, a mind-blowing and eye-catching experience to have these two cars side by side. And I think just visually looking at these two cars side by side, you know straight away that the McLaren is extremely impactful. Whereas the 911, okay, it's understated, it's beautiful, it's elegant, offers phenomenal performance, but this is something else. This is truly something else, and I think I'm impressed. And way too often I myself, without having experienced a McLaren, without driving a McLaren or having it in my stock or driving it for a week or a couple of days on a trip, it's very easy to jump the bandwagon to say the reliability isn't good or that it's a very rough and stiff drive. I think one really needs to see it and sit in it and to truly experience what it is like. It's been an absolutely exhilarating drive. We're back here to tell you about the exterior spec of this and what it looks like aesthetically, and then we can delve into the interior a little bit more. Well, firstly, this outside is absolutely stunning. In terms of the color scheme combination here, I think it works extremely well. You've got the palladium rear bonnet and the stealth diffuser to the exhaust system, as well as the paintwork is finished in vermilion red, and I think it looks stunning. That is the word. When it comes to something like this, it's got to be stunning. But what I love about the McLaren 570S is how well it's put together. It's sculpted so incredibly well. I've been talking to my colleague about just the build quality and how it's put together, and I know there are some people that knock the McLaren down for its reliability, but this isn't something that I got throughout my test drive. It's a very well put together car, extremely well refined, and everything oozes quality, and from a design point of view, it's sculpted so well. Just look at that back end and look at these scooping beautiful lines that run through the rear arches. Everything has not just an aesthetic design viewpoint to it, it's functional. You've got these places here where you've got wind coming in to cool down the engine. You've got all of these side vents, they're all to serve a function. And the dihedral doors, I think these are a thing of beauty. And this has had quite a lot of carbon used throughout, such as finding a bit of carbon here. But before we talk about the monocoque chassis and how well it's actually designed from a chassis point of view and put together, and the engine configuration, we just need to appreciate what it's like on the front. And again, it's these design elements that you find that obviously catches in the wind and blows it to cool down the condensers or the radiators here on the side of the engine. And you've got two radiators there, and you've also, from a safety point of view, should you ever be in a situation where your brakes are not warm, you've got the carbon ceramic brakes. They do an absolutely exceptional job. Unlike the Porsche 911 Turbo, the Turbo S that has the carbon ceramic brakes, I tend to find them a bit jerky and not comfortable at all when you want to daily drive around in one of them with carbon ceramics. Whereas the McLaren does a phenomenal job. At some point, I didn't even feel that I was driving a car with carbon ceramic brakes because they were nice, soft and progressive, exactly what it needed to do. You've got this front end of the car, which is again just state of the art. It's so ingenious. Just the sculptedness and the wow factor that this has from an eye-catching point of view. I think it's remarkable, and it's a true credit to McLaren for being able to produce these cars. And in a very short space of time, they've come a long way to compete with the likes of the 911 Turbo, the AMG GTS, the Audi R8 V10, and obviously now, 7 years later, in 2022, in a price bracket range that something like this sits in is anywhere between 80 to 90,000 pounds. And yes, you've got access to quite a few other cars, but I think the McLaren will and is an absolute must from an ownership point of view, and I think it's a superbly stunning car. You've also had the previous owner also had the, I wouldn't say the previous owner, actually this would have been either the first owner or when it was originally purchased from the main dealer. They've had the whole of the front end of the car PPF'd, including the carbon side door mirrors, which fold in extremely well. And here again, you've got this palladium front that works extremely well from a color coordination point of view with the vermilion red. And from a practicality point of view, you've obviously got this front boot, which is spacious enough to get, I guess, 2 small luggage cases in there. So I guess McLaren have thought of being able to make this practical enough, so should one want, they can daily this and put 20, 30, 40,000 miles. I know this has only done 18,000 miles, but don't be shy putting miles on it. And it is surprisingly comfortable, as you found out in my test drive, especially when you've got everything in the comfort settings. Let's get onto the inside and tell you a little bit more about what it's like on the interior. Well, firstly is the dihedral doors. They first come out slightly and then they lift up, and I think they're incredible, and it's a trademark, or well, a hallmark of McLaren's. Obviously on the interior, this has got the Alcantara and the red leather interior look to it. You've got the Alcantara carbon with red leather steering wheel. I think works extremely well, and the pedal shifts are also finished in Alcantara. In terms of other optional items that this has are things like the cruise control. You've obviously got the sport settings for how it handles, and also the transmission settings there. You've got all the modern day technology you need, from being able to connect your mobile phone both for music and telephone calls, as well as having a navigation system. So it's all there in that screen. Let me just illustrate getting into this vehicle, which is actually really fun, and this is part of the beautiful feeling and the wow factor of what the McLaren offers. So you sort of come into it from that normal position, you put your left leg in, and it is as easy as this. Yes, it might take a couple of tries just to get comfortable to it, but just getting into it, it is an absolutely beautiful feeling. And then you're obviously sitting behind the steering wheel, and that in itself is a very pleasurable experience. And now when you compare them to the Audi R8 V10 Plus, I've had that second generation here at the dealership, or the Mercedes-AMG GTS, one which I've got in stock right now, or the Ferrari California, which I also have in stock at the moment, as well as the Porsche 911 Turbo S, the 991 Turbo S. They're all very similar price range, but I think this wins the race any day of the week, both from aesthetics, the way it drives, the way it handles, and why the handling plays such a crucial role, and what is that key component that plays that role, which of course the mid-engine, the rear configuration of the mid-engine, which is of course derived from the McLaren P1, and you also found this a similar variant engine in the McLaren 570S. But this is for the interior. I think it's well sculpted, again very well put together. From what you find here under your handrest, you find carbon here around these buttons. You've got plenty of space here to put your mobile phones, or to put any loose items, keys, etc. You've got a lovely cup holder. So the engine needs to be turned on to open the glove box. So that's your glove box area. And lastly, let me just actually bring this door down. And there's another really interesting area where you can actually put some more items, is what you find right here. Now let's open the door one more time, and we talk about this mid-engine rear configuration. This is where the engine is, so it's just on the rear of the vehicle, and the mid-engine gives you an absolutely phenomenal weight distribution, the way it handles around corners, and obviously the McLaren, using a lot of F1 technology, massively helps a car like this when you're driving it at high speed or around corners, or if you're perhaps thinking of using it on the track. As covered in my test drive, this isn't something that you must drive on a track, because that's not true. And it's not a track orientated car only. This is designed for the market of people that want a daily one of these. It's designed for the market of people that perhaps might want to buy a 911 Turbo S or an Audi R8 V10 Plus. And what can I say? This is everything from the exterior, interior, and the only thing remaining now really is the paperwork. What is the paperwork like in terms of the owner's history and the service history? But before I can dive into that, in terms of the cosmetic condition, this is in extremely well condition overall. The tires are practically brand new. The discs, the pads are all in absolutely tip-top condition, and there aren't any known damage or any cosmetic damage anywhere on the bumper or on the paintwork or any bubbling or any of the rubbers elements being loose anywhere. So let me get the paperwork and talk you through the paperwork in a bit. In terms of owner's history, this was first registered in June 2016. So the first and the second owner, between them, owned it for just under 3 years. The last owner, which is the fifth owner now, and 4 prior to him, he actually owned it from 19th of January 2022. He purchased it directly from McLaren Hatfield. And in May, on the 17th of May 2022, he spent roughly £5,486 from doing a major service, from having a new MOT done, having 2 new tyres done, having a couple of brake lines that were corroded changed, and all new brake fluid, and practically everything that the car needed from a PDI point of view to reassure him, to give him all the assurances that he needs to be able to enjoy something like this from a supercar point of view, has all been done, and this is ready to be enjoyed by its new owner. And in terms of specification, there's about 3 pages worth of specification, which I was able to get from the McLaren client services this morning. So should you want to see the specification list, it's all here, but I think it's a lot to memorize and a lot to cover in a video such as this. Another 3 books, one of them I haven't got here right now with me, is the owner's manual. It's a beautiful owner's manual that comes and explains the whole car to you, everything you need from something small to something major. You've obviously got the Iris user guide, which is for the entertainment system, and right here is the service and the warranty booklet, and this will have all the service stamps. This is your 17th stamp from McLaren Glasgow, your 2018 stamp from McLaren Ascot. You've got your 2019 stamp from McLaren Ascot one more time, and at this point it had done 7,627 miles. And then the next service was done in 2021. This is when it was stamped 14,125 miles, which was done, from what I can see, at a specialist called Supercar Concierge. Maybe perhaps this was done because it was taken to a track day, most probably. And it's encouraged and recommended to actually change the oil on that day. And the last one was done on the 17th of May 2022 at McLaren Hatfield, and that was done at 16,992 miles. And all in all, since this last major service, where the previous owner, Mr. Evans, kindly did £5,500 worth of work, the car has only covered about 600 miles. So it's got a phenomenally excellent McLaren service history, and I think this is a dream come true for anyone that is looking to buy a McLaren. Thanks once again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and see you in the next video.